To all of you that are emerging leaders as senior pastors in the emerging generations, listen carefully because I'm staying really focused on the topic at hand. The rise of the CEO pastor and the corporate mindset overtook the church a number of decades ago. Somewhere along the way, the church stopped asking what it means to be faithful and started asking what it means to be successful. And that shift changed absolutely everything. When pastors became brand managers, congregations turned into consumers, and the pulpit became a platform for influence rather than a place of sacred proclamation. We lost something essential. The CEO pastor is not a scriptural figure. He or she is a product of the industrialized, efficiency-driven culture that measures success by output, scalability, and visibility. In a world where corporate metrics determine value, we exchanged the slow, cruciform work of discipleship for expansion models and leadership strategies borrowed from Wall Street and Silicon Valley. I was part of that generation. What was once a sacred vocation formed by prayer, suffering, and wisdom has been repackaged into a career path measured by audience size, book deals, and social media reach. The shift, my friends, was not accidental. The late modern church, particularly in the West, has been shaped by the logic of consumer capitalism, where growth is the highest virtue. The megachurch phenomenon reinforced the belief that bigger is always better, that a church is healthy if it's expanding numerically, and that pastors are successful if they're building an empire. As theologian John Drain warned us in 2012, in the McDonaldization of the church, we began valuing efficiency over depth, control over mystery, and predictability over the unpredictable movement of the Spirit. We wanted to be in control. But what happens when you scale something that was never meant to be mechanized? You create systems that are unsustainable, leadership models that crush those within them, and an ecclesiology that rewards performance over authenticity. When pastors become executives, their congregations become an audience to be retained rather than a people to be shepherded. What's the result? Burnout, moral collapse, disillusionment, and a shallow spirituality that thrives on spectacle but lacks the substance that belongs to Christ. What's most troubling is that this model was never challenged, it was embraced. Christian leadership books began to quote business gurus more than they quoted Jesus. Church conferences became indistinguishable from corporate leadership summits. The pastors as visionary CEO became the default model, and the language of strategy and branding replaced the language of shepherding and servanthood. But here's the truth. Jesus never built an empire. He never strategized growth models. He never cultivated a personal brand. He never measured his influence by numbers. The moment the church forgets that leadership is cruciform, it exchanges the authority of the cross for the power structures of the world. And when the world sets the terms, the church loses its soul. So here's the question every emerging leader needs to ask themselves. Are you a shepherd or are you a CEO? Because the one lays down his or her life for the sheep. The other monetizes them. And if something in you is stirring as you hear this, if you're wrestling with what this means for your calling, you're not alone. These are the conversations we need to be having, and I'd love to walk alongside leaders who know there has to be a different way. More soon. Stay with me.